What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Hello, hello.
Uh,
Um, where Brian went. Is it black on your end too, Steven?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So probably lost some. We'll check it out. But welcome back, everybody. Glad to be here. Bible and Brekkie. It's 10:30 in the morning, and there's Brian.
What?
You're good, bro. You're good. And we're excited. We're going to a new book today. We're going into the book of Ruth, and so it's gonna be a big blessing. But I'm here with Steven and Brian. How you guys doing? Hanging in there?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah.
Having some mate, so
Same to you. Same here. What about you, Steven?
I have nothing. I forgot to bring it in. I left it out. I left it out there,
What
man.
do I have around me that I can?
No, you guys were with me like on Sunday and Monday when I was suffering, bro, with like allergies. So I had to just make sure I took it this morning because I can finally breathe and I'm not like sneezing every, you know.
sorry, bro.
So I was just trying to make sure I ate something to take that, and then I just left everything out there. But
In all fairness, that was our fault. Sorry, Steven.
what?
All that dog hair and everything.
No. Honestly, it's the pollen, man. I don't think like.
Oh,
I think it was a combination of things, but I think it was the pollen. Because I'm usually not that allergic to dogs like that. I'm pretty. I've had seasonal allergies for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Last year it just didn't bother me because we were inside in spring.
The pollen was just. Yeah, man. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good, man. As long as this mate lasts, I'm gonna be, a happy camper. Interesting how we're gonna be moving from like a more like theological like things that you have to kind of extract to the story, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like, man, we've been, we did what? Romans.
Yeah.
What was our other?
James, right? James.
It was very like, Romans very theological, James very practical, and then Psalm was just like,
yeah, very like spiritual.
Yeah. So it'll be our first time doing an actual narrative story. So it'll be
but we opted out of a 3-year contract, man. With Psalm, so.
Yeah.
We changed the terms of agreement.
We had a buyout, bro. Buyout.
Yeah, we had a clause there that said, Women's Month is
the Women's Month clause.
Just want to be able to be cognizant of so as you can see the background, Women's Month. We'll have a question at the end actually Stevens hasn't been here for our lightning round at the end, so we'll introduce him to that at the end.
Okay.
It's not
I think I saw a little bit of it. Yeah.
It's not great.
It's not
there's a lot of build up, so now I'm like nervous.
Yeah.
For the lightning round.
I always lose, so I mean
loser has to whatever. But yeah, Ruth is the book we're going into. And if you have your Bibles or online, just follow along with us. We're going to break it down by a couple verses because it is a narrative. And so we're going to go verses 1 through 5 in the beginning. Ruth 1, chapter 1, 1 through 5. In light of Women's Ministry Month. Women's History Month.
Women's Ministry.
So we're grateful for women in our lives in ministry as well, firm women in ministry. And we're gonna talk about powerful women here in the book of Ruth. But it starts like this in verse 1 of chapter 1 of Ruth. You guys ever say that when I preach? Sometimes instead of saying like Ruth 1:1, I say verse 1 of chapter 1 of the book of Ruth.
I do that when I mess up.
Yeah, I mess. Yeah, when I start, I'm like, let's go to verse 1 of chapter 1 of the book of Ruth.
It's because you're reading in Hebrew, so you're like, all right, let me just.
Yeah, your mind thinks in Hebrew and Greek, so that transition.
Yeah. I'm trying. I'm reading the other way, but
that's how we know you're a scholar.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good good way to think about
it. That's a scholar slip up, like the average.
If you weren't smart, it wouldn't happen,
Yeah.
We're gonna have scholar slip up moments now.
That's what you're just gonna call it now. Yeah.
Welcome to scholar slip ups, where we might slip up and say something scholarly. But all right, Ruth 1:1, verse 1 of chapter 1 of Ruth. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech. Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his two sons were Machlon, and Kilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, how do you Elimelech? Naomi's husband. Elimelech. Elimelech. Naomi's husband died, and she was left with her two sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. And after they had lived there about 10 years, both Machlon and Kilion also died. And Naomi was left without her two sons and her husband. Yep.
So since it's a story, it is what it is. All right, verse 6.
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I mean, I guess like we can. I mean, just right off the top, like I guess you see, just like the situation Naomi was in. I mean, obviously that's something of note, right? Kind of what happened to her.
Yeah.
In terms of losing her husband, which is a big deal. I mean, I don't know. I can only imagine, in terms of losing a spouse. Yeah. But here she, and then obviously culturally, like that's even a bigger deal. Like it's definitely difficult to lose your spouse now in today's society, but this meant a lot more. It carried a lot more negative connotation for a woman, right, in that culture, And so I think there is a level of loss that just goes beyond grieving. There's a loss of maybe economic, in terms of just the economic, status of her home and even how she's viewed in society. And there's all of that, and now kind of, and maybe I guess now the expectation of, okay, what is she's supposed to get married again? What is kind of but no, who will marry her, right? There's all these different things kind of at play here. Yeah, that's just kind of off the top, kind of where I'm seeing,
Yeah, that's good.
And then I guess what her sons die too, right? Yeah, and then her sons die. So I mean, it's just
everything is just like
everything is going wrong, man.
Anything you want, whatever you didn't want to go wrong back then is literally going wrong now.
Because I guess too, like you could say that maybe the sons were then gonna care for her, right? Or there was some level of, but now even that sort of the next generation is now gone as well.
Yeah, just everything is going wrong for her, which really sucks, because you're, she's, I would assume she's an older, woman, an older lady, and right when you're like thinking of retirement, your 401k is just like broke.
Good. That's
your
good.
your kids who you think, oh, they have homes they can support, die. You have nothing left, and you've been living in this land, you've been renting, like you didn't even buy a house yet, so you have nothing to pay your rent with. And so I guess when I'm looking at her, it's just like she's at a stage in life where she should be reaping the rewards of her hard labor.
Ooh.
And she isn't. She just kind of loses it, which really sucks for her. But I blame the husband, honestly.
Okay.
Not because he died, because obviously things happen, but I remember I researched this story not too long ago, and as we get further into it, I'm reading this right in the days when there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and two sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. And I love the way that the author kind of sets it up, because if you read like this the stories that Moses tells, he kind of gives you the answer, or like that everything's going to be okay before it starts. So like, God tried Abraham, so you already knew Abraham was going to succeed or whatever. And so here, this author, the author of Ruth, leaves you on a cliffhanger, because it says they went to live there for a while, right? But really, it's like they went to live there forever, apparently, at least the men, because they weren't coming back. But when it comes to the story, like Bethlehem means house of bread, or we know that. This guy had all the information to stick around, to not have to go. It's like, oh, COVID came to the United States, came to Florida. Let me move to Georgia. Let me move to. It's like, it shouldn't cause you to move right away, because later on in the story, like when they go back to Bethlehem, it's like it's packed. Like how bad was the, what's the scenario really? How bad was this famine really? If there was still a bunch of people there,
right?
It was just bad for you apparently at the moment, and they took the decision upon themselves, or at least the man did, to take his wife and his family and go somewhere where he thought he would have more than where he currently was. And it's just a classic example, at least in Christianity, when we decide to make moves without really consulting, the waymaker, right? So, so I think that at least that's a lesson for me. Sometimes I'm itching to move, to leave to a better place, to go to somewhere where I feel like I'm going to be better off, that my family's going to be better off. And really, it comes from a place where, dude, I just want to get this weight off. I just want to be able to have more opportunities. And I think that's where the husband was coming from. Yet he had this information of like, yo, you're living in, in this land called Bethlehem, house of bread. Why aren't you waiting on God? Because eventually God does come through.
Yeah.
Naomi says it herself. So,
That's good. I like that. And even the context there in the first verse, in the days when the judges ruled, right? If you haven't read the book of Judges, just the whole story of just the people of God choosing God and then leaving him and then being handed over to people that were conquering them and then crying out to God. It's a whole cycle, and God comes and delivers them with these judges, right? Gideon and Samson was a judge, Deborah, a lot of people that came in and just freed them and then tried to have them follow God. And so it's in those days when people are just kind of in and out, hot and cold relationship, that we see the story. And I like that. I didn't think about it. It kind of reminds you of like, people in the book of Genesis that, Abraham that made rash decisions because he didn't trust God, and it seems like that the setup is that way, right? He's fleeing because maybe he doesn't trust that God's going to provide and be there for them. And then while there, the sons marry people that are outside of the Jewish community, right? Or the Israelite community at that time. So that could be seen like, oh man, this is gonna end up bad. We've seen things happen like this in the earlier on and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely, it reminds me even of the kind of the book of Job, right? Where Job loses everything. So it looks like Naomi is just lost her husband, lost her sons, as Stephen was saying, her livelihood. She's left with two younger women that are her
daughters-in-law.
But it just seems like, it's just gonna end up really bad, and you're like, this is a crazy time.
That's basically what three women who are grieving, right? They're just kind of in a situation now where they, and then I guess too, like the point you were just making about the Moab area, right? I think in terms of the connotation for Israel, the Moab was not viewed as a good way, right? Which I think kind of adds to, as you'll see later, in terms of, obviously the main character then becomes one of the daughter-in-laws, which is Ruth. But that connotation of her as a Moabitess, right, or as a Moabite woman, definitely carries a lot of negative connotation, negative, views, and also just within the readers, right? So a person that is reading this later on is still kind of going to have some sort of prejudice towards this idea of moving to Moab. And I think having a very similar reaction, maybe a thought process to kind of what Brian's saying, like, why did dude move to Moab anyway? Like, you go there to get killed, right? You go there to, like that's what happens when you go to Moab. Moab is just going to do what it does, right? I feel like that's kind of maybe the thought process here. Now they're left, three of them grieving. One's been grieving for a decade or more, and then now the daughter-in-laws are, and who knows even how Naomi feels about her two daughter-in-laws, in terms of that sort of cultural dynamic of like, oh, well, now I'm stuck with these two women that maybe I was just tolerating because of my son,
Right.
Yeah.
But now, like, she's face to
My
face
husband
with
made
the fact.
the decision to come out here, and I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't leave home. Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows what it would have been the, you know, her setup there. You know, maybe the shame of having to go back to homeland too, of saying like, man, we left Moab, and people think we're kind of traitors, and we left when everything was kind of going hard. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility as well, that she might have felt that way. And
mhm.
man, it's a horrible beginning. I mean, it can only go up from here, honestly.
We hope. We hope.
We hope.
Yeah.
There is ways it could go down.
Yeah, we see with Joe, man. It's like, oh, what else could go wrong? Oh man,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, we're hoping for a good resolution, and continue. But yeah, we'll continue. And I'm gonna try actually share my screen and try to do something different there, and then we can follow along here.
Whoa.
Oh.
So the verse continues. When 16 6 of 14, we're going to read a couple verses here. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. So she heard that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, right? Going to Brian's point there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons? Who could become your husbands? Oh, am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you because the Lord's hand has turned against me. I guess we'll stop there in those verses there. It is more bitter for me than for you.
Yeah, it's interesting interaction. Yeah, between them. I guess for me, like I just think about and maybe even sort of the cultural dynamic of why is it that Naomi's like, hey, you guys should just go.
Yeah.
Is it just part of her grieving process, or is she trying to just get them off of her? Right, she doesn't really want to deal with it. I don't know. It's hard to really know, right?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of feels either way, right? Because even then they're like, no, we'll just go to your country. We'll just go with you.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, like don't do that. So I don't know, like what is.
Point. Yeah.
I think it's already gonna be, like we were just saying earlier, like it's already gonna be difficult enough for her to go back, right? And kind of like have to, I don't know, make amends for leaving, right? And then now if she shows up with her two Moabite daughter-in-laws, they're gonna be like, oh man, like it's not like you left and are coming back with this, and you're just coming back because now your husbands are gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like it could partially just be like her grieving process, right? I just want to go about this alone. I don't really want to deal with this anymore. But yeah, and I guess it also gives a window into sort of the predicament that women were in many ways culturally, right? Where she's just like, I'm not going to be able to have any other sons. Go find someone else. And she knows how difficult it is for them to find another husband. She knows how difficult that will be, having already been married, right? For them having already been married. So just interesting interaction here. And I think you can kind of take like a kind of positive view of Naomi, like in the sense, or like maybe a sympathetic view of Naomi, like, oh, okay, like she's just grieving. This is kind of how she's dealing with it. Or you can take the other view of like, nah, this is jacked up. Like she's just trying to get rid of her daughter-in-law because she doesn't like them.
Yeah,
she's not trying to embarrass herself in front of her old stomping grounds, right? And sort of how that connotation would be for her even more so. So, that's kind of my initial thoughts when I'm looking at that.
No, you're right, Steven. I mean, because she left her homeland with 3 men and is coming back with 2 single or not single women, but like they're coming
Widows.
widows, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you're coming back much less than with what you left with, you know, at least as far as society is concerned.
Yeah.
And I mean, so supposedly, what I had read on this was that back then there was this custom, like when you went to go visit someone, yeah, when you went to go visit someone in a distant land, that they would accompany you once you were leaving their house. They would accompany you to the border of that land and the following. And what's interesting, at least from the story, is that it seems like her daughter-in-laws are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, according to the custom, which is, you know, following her at the very least to the border of, you know, Moab and Israel. And that's really cool, because right after that, she, you know, Ruth turns around and is like, all right, go home. And they had a possibility, right, of remarrying, of going back to their father's house and their father finding another spouse for them. And so Naomi she kind of relieves them of that commitment of having to stay by her side. And at least for me, what I find to be awesome about this story is how it characterizes Ruth, right? It says, you have shown me kindness, right? You have shown me kindness. I don't know until what verse we read.
13.
13? Let me not say it then, because we haven't read about it yet. But I really love this part of the story because of how it describes Ruth, you know, with this kindness and going back to, you know, Hebrew, and that word being hesed, which is like a verb that's typically only used towards like God. God has hesed for his people, this loving kindness that isn't waiting. You know, it doesn't only appear when it's reciprocated. It's just there all of the time, which, you know, can show us one or two things. Either Ruth was naturally like this, or somehow in her time spent in Naomi's home, Naomi was able to share bits and pieces of God to her. That could be the case as well, but I don't know. For me personally, I don't like to give Naomi that much credit as far as like evangelizing Ruth. I think that was just it happened because that was the custom of the day. I think that if they would have like kept it tight within like what God said in his scripture back then, they would have tried to find young Israelite women for their sons.
That's a good point. I think it's interesting, you know, that first verse 6, they heard, you know, God had come through for the aid of his people, as always, you know, God comes through, and then people are in a foreign land, and it's like, oh man, we probably should have stayed in Judah. But
investments, man, investments.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's interesting, right? You know, really thinking about how hard this decision must have been for Naomi, right? Because she probably could have found a husband there or something, you know, maybe from in Moab, and tries to go back. We don't know if she's telling her daughter-in-laws to not go back with her because she's afraid of what people may think already, or the shame, or it might be. I mean, I don't know. I would kind of want it to be that it's, you know, she's wanting them to have a life, and she knows that if they go back to Judah, they might not be able to find an Israelite man to marry them because they're Moab women, right? So it's like, hey, I'd rather you go home, find your people here, because I know how my people may be, you know, kind of like what we do with church members. I know how my church is, you know, it's okay. But I find it interesting, and I don't know if it's maybe I don't know if it's in all the Bible verses, but it says when she says, go back, each of you, to your mother's home. So it's interesting that she says mother's home and not father's home. I don't know if that's actually in the actual text, but interesting, right? Because most of the time you would say, hey, it's the father's home that you're going back to. And I don't know if it's because of the lens that Naomi is seeing now, that there is no father presence in her home in terms of her husband or even her sons. I don't know.
I think that just in that culture, moms have more of a role to play when it comes to finding a match for their daughters. But also, at least the way that the homes were constructed, it seems that the father had like his room, and then all the other women had like different rooms. Like, so it was the father's house, but she was taken care of, and she would live with the mother.
With the mother, I see.
And so, especially if you had multiple wives, you wouldn't put them all into the same room. That'd be kind of
Yeah, you would technically go back to.
You're asking for trouble. Yeah. So she would technically go back to mom's room, not dad's room. So yeah, and I think that most of us, when we think of home, we think of dad because dad is there, but really the person who's like really like pouring into us 24/7 is mom. At least in most of our cases. And in that way, I think Ruth is like a mother. She's like, go back to your mom's house, because I know who's going to take care of you as mom. Dad might be a little bit disappointed at first, but mom's going to take care of you. I like what you brought out there though, Seba, when you said that when you compared it to church, don't come to my church because the people there are kind of like weird, because as far as what's written down, Naomi should have just been like, come with me, you're gonna get taken care of, because we have all these laws for the stranger and the outcast and widows that are set there to protect us and to make us live a wonderful life, even though we don't have these men to take care of us. And she knew that wasn't the case. Like, it's written, it's said, it's preached, but we don't practice it. So might as well not.
It's only hypothetical. It's a sermon illustration.
Exactly.
You don't,
hypothetical. That's interesting. Yeah. And yeah. And I like that there too in verse 9, right? That what she's wanting them to find, rather than, because she could have said, I may God each of you that you find love, or that you find a prosperity, but she just says rest, right? And so I wonder what that, I guess maybe it might be, I don't know if it's translated by shalom or peace as well, whatever it is, but it's interesting, maybe at this time, who knows how long had happened since their husbands had died, but they were probably working their tails off in different places and locations to try to survive and have, income. And now it's like, we can't keep this pace of life. And so I have to go home. You guys go home. And I hope that wherever you go, you don't have to keep having this life of having to, work so hard, and you can actually find rest in wherever you are, and especially in the home of a future husband, right? So who knows what kind of and it seems they were very close, because the next section, right, they kissed them goodbye, she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud. So they had this bond. They all had lost their loved ones tragically, and here they are kind of separating and trying to find out what's up next. So jumping down to this Brian's section right here. Ruth 14, it says, and at this they wept aloud again, right? Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Interesting, her gods. Go back with her, right? This is your people. These are your gods. You've done your, you've been good.
Yeah.
You're absolved from your duty here. You can go. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Pretty crazy. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the two women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, can this be Naomi? Don't call me Naomi, she told them.
Shut your mouth.
Stop. She called me Mom, which means bitter, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. So it's setting up another scene, right? It's pretty cool how it's getting us ready for what's coming. But do you guys know what Naomi's name actually means? Let me see if I can click it. Because I wonder if it means. Oh, it means pleasant. Okay.
Pleasant.
And Mara, yeah,
And
Mara.
Mara.
Bitter.
By the way, we're sponsored by Bible Game. I'm just
Yeah. That'd be nice.
a message from our.
That'd be kind of cool. Be kind of
Bible
cool.
Game.
Yeah.
You can do different things here. You can add a parallel. Don't know what this does. Oh, share it, print
Like
it.
I'm in class now.
You don't even need to have a printer. You can just print. No.
Just print wherever you are.
The PDF.
So she goes from being called Naomi Pleasant to saying, "Hey, don't call me Pleasant anymore. Call me Mara," which means bitter. Wow. Oops.
Yeah, man.
Say your thoughts, Brian. No.
Dude, so honestly, I love the comparison between Ruth and her sister-in-law. What's her name?
Orpah.
I always think it's Oprah, but it's
same. Orpah. Yeah, what a weird name. Anyway, so no offense to any of you who are named Orpah.
They would have said Brian's a weird name. I mean,
yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Brian.
Brain. What? So I love the distinction it makes because both of them have the same emotional reaction, which is to cry together. But then what they do after the emotional reaction is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that the kind of Christians that we are 99.8% of the time is Orpah. We're Orpah Christians. We have that emotional reaction, and then we leave and we go to our gods, and then we come back and we have another emotional reaction, and then we leave and we go to our gods. Whereas Ruth, it says that she clung, right? She clung to Naomi, and she did this after the fact that Naomi has lost everything, after the fact that Naomi considers herself to be bitter. Who's going to want to be around like a bitter old woman? Mm-hmm. Nobody, man. Like, unless she's your grandmother, you don't want to be around her, And so the fact that Naomi releases them of that duty and Ruth decides to cling on to her just is a representation of that, that has said that loving kindness that she has, which again is a character trait of God for a woman that has nothing to provide for her. And you find that Naomi is just like her husband, trying to get rid of the thing that later on ends up blessing her, right? So her husband tries to move from Bethlehem, trying to look for something better or trying to do what's better and provide for himself. Yeah. Naomi's trying to get rid of Ruth to do something better to provide for both of them. And in this case, Ruth is like, "Nah, bro, I'm not having it." And it seems like Ruth knows that Naomi needs her more than Ruth needs Naomi, right? So I really love that about the story. The fact that there's just such a difference between their actions after the emotional response.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's good, man. Just kind of that's something I never thought of, the sort of different responses or even kind of unpacking why. I guess for me, like I still, I guess the part of it is, I think there's this understanding that she came to maybe of, the true God. But I guess for me, like, and maybe I just am being harsh on a grieving woman, right? The grieving old woman. But I really take issue with and Seba, you pointed it out in that moment when she's like, go back to her people and to her gods, right? This sort of I guess for me, the way I read that is she's kind of saying like, you don't really believe in the true God. So why don't you just go back with your people and go do whatever, false stuff that you guys do, this sort of bad, you know what I mean? Like she's kind of just saying like, okay, like the charade is over. Like you don't have to pretend to kind of be a part of this anymore. Good. My sons are gone. Like you're stuck with me. You know what that's going to be like. Just go back to first, earlier it was mother's house. And now it's like, go back to your people and go back to your gods and go back to doing whatever you were doing before me. And then, it's like this response that Orpah has, like, okay, well, I guess the show's over. And then Ruth is like, no, there's something here
that's beyond.
and I guess for me, like, what is that thing, right? Because it doesn't even seem like the woman that is associated with this sort of true God really necessarily is fighting to keep her around, right? Which is another church point, right? Just go back to the stuff, like she's not advocating for her to stay.
Yeah.
She's saying, like, just leave, like, go. But Ruth has this sort of resilience despite that to say, like, no, like, there's something here that is keeping me around. Like, I feel like I'm going to continue. There's something right here, even though a lot has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of resilience. So, and I think that's, and then the language that she uses, where she's not just like, well, I don't really have anything at home, so I'm just going to go with you because maybe that's better. I think, no, she's stepping in this, it sounds like, for the rest of her life. She's like, I'll die wherever you die. Wherever you go, I'm going to go, and just sort of like, all of a sudden, I think the tables flip in terms of who the godly person is or who the faithful person is, right? I think that kind of shifts here to now it's Ruth. Ruth begins telling Naomi, like, if you want to go rebuke or if you want to go just, preaching to her, like, hey, like, yo, I'm sticking around with you. And I feel like that's the call that God has placed on my life. And this is your God. This is not, stop associating me with this sort of connotation that you have. And I think there's a lesson in there for church people, in terms of how we may approach groups of people that maybe are different than us, or people that we're just like, okay, they're going to go do whatever they do. Like, we can speak that way, but there is this level of resilience that I think exists within these spaces and within people that we wouldn't expect. And I think Naomi thought that it was going to be, okay, they'll take this, they'll go. Like, they'll realize that, it's over. They don't really have to continue pretending, but it's not the response. I don't think Naomi was expecting that at all. I mean, as a reader, you're not expecting that response.
Yeah.
It feels like she's making it like a covenant, like a marriage vow type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like that, the continuation of that faithfulness that to her husband, whether it be Malone or Killian, where she's like, nah, like, I married into this family pretty much. And the same commitment I have for you. And I think we don't think about marriage. I don't think about marriage like that. It's not like, obviously, when you marry someone, you're making a covenant with someone. It takes on the whole big picture in the family, right? But this is it's pretty deep. I think it's interesting, right? And obviously, this is a scholar slip up for me, but the word clung, right, in the Hebrew, it was interesting. And I mean, we can
clung,
but it's actually the same word, and obviously it's used in different places for different definitions. But it's the same word that Genesis 2 uses to describe what happens when a man and a woman combine and
like cleave, right? That sort of
yeah. I thought it was interesting to see, like,
interesting, yeah.
I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if, obviously the word is used differently in different places, but there is this connection of, like, this covenantal approach that she has. It's not just like please, and they're like, no, you can go, no, okay, since you insist, right? It's not like a fake. She's actually like, no, like, you're literally my family now. Like, you have become, part of me. And so, like you were saying, it's echoed in what she says, where I go, where you're going to go, I'm going to go. Where you stay, I'm going to stay. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. Like, that's it. We kind of become this one flesh in a sense, right? With your mother-in-law, which is, to think about it, it's like, oh, interesting, but and she, to the point where she even pronounces kind of like a condemnation on herself. Look, if I ever leave from this, may God deal with me, be it so severely, if even death separates you from me. Yeah. So, like, I want to die. Like, this is how committed I am to you. And who knows? Was it her love for her husband that had passed that made her love her mother-in-law? Was it this hope or this faith that she had found? We don't know what it is, but she's definitely moved to this
combination of both.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely was some kind of, mystery to this God that she wasn't fully aware with, that attracted her more than what she could receive going back home.
Yeah.
But I like this this aspect of what she promises Naomi, because many times, man, and I speaking for myself as well, I tend to give people power over my commitments. Right. And so you're telling me I don't don't have to do that. All right, bye. I'm not doing it. Whereas I like what Ruth does. She's like, no, you can't tell me that I don't have to do this.
Yeah,
Like,
it's on me. Yeah,
it's on me. And sometimes commitments, aren't, we base them on people. And so we say, okay, this is my commitment. As long as this person's here, or as long as they're doing that, as long as they follow through, whatever, that's my commitment. Once they don't do that, then that's it. I'm out. And so our promises tend to rely on people instead of relying on ourselves, our own character, because that would be harsher on us, right? And here it sounds so dramatic, right? Oh, if I don't keep up with it, may God smite me. But that's literally how it should be, but that feels uncomfortable to us. That feels uncomfortable to us because for so long, I think we've been, fed into like this culture of like, all right, you make a promise, you make the promise to the person, and whatever the person said, cool, whatever. But really, you're making a promise to yourself. And in a way, I think that Ruth understood that the promise she was making wasn't just about Naomi. It was about the person that she wanted to become, the person that she wanted to be. And I think that, man, this story is powerful, bro. It definitely shows me that women have a lot more willpower than I do. I'm not gonna say men because
I mean the husband, the guy's died, so that just shows.
Yeah, weak as heck, bro. Like, when you get a cold, and you're like in bed, you just got a little cold or whatever, and they're like,
that's facts. Yeah,
the women literally breaking norms and trying to go against them and trying to survive. Yeah, I like that. I like that this says more about Ruth than it does about Naomi. I think about her willingness to, because it's not like, oh, Naomi, you have money, I need to stay with you because you can provide for me. Like there's literally you're in better position because you're younger. You can find someone. I'm old. I mean, I'm probably gonna go home and die, and if they don't welcome me back into the community, right? It's like, and so it really speaks a lot about Ruth.
Bro, when God makes a promise to his people, what name does he make it? Make that promise with, he says, I'm making this promise for my name's sake, right? I'm doing this for my name's sake. And you see that with Ruth. It's like, I'm making this promise for it. I shouldn't say this, but everything kind of points to it for my namesake. Like I'm doing this from me. And I think as people of God or Christians or whatever, when we make those promises, we kind of have to follow God's instruction on that. It's like God says, oh, I'm making this promise for my namesake. And so in a way, that speaks a lot more about you than anything else. I mean, we end up loving God and partly because of what he says, I'm doing this for my namesake, not because you deserve it.
Yeah.
And Naomi sure as heck didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So
no, and I mean, thankfully, the story gets better, right? So we're finding that even though Orpah leaves, Ruth says, "I'm going to stay with you until good and bad. I'm with you for life, pretty much, and even in death, I need to be next to you." Like, but it's beautiful that they get to Bethlehem, and when they arrive, the whole town is stirred because of them, right? And so they're excited. There's noise, and they're like, "Is this Naomi? Can this be the one?" And so thankfully, it seems that they're welcomed. More graciously rather, kind of like the prodigal son and the father. It's not like the brother that's like, nah, come on. Y'all left when it was bad. Nah, you can't come when we're good now, So the church, I think another, emphasis of how the church should be, right? Hey, you left? I mean, I'm sorry, but you can't just jump into where you were before or receive the blessings that now we have because, hey, you left. You didn't have the faith, but then she kind of speaks up, right? Call me bitter because really the Lord has made my life very bitter, right? Similar to in the vein of Job, right? Where Job's like, hey, I don't know what's going on with my life, but it sucks right now. And the Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. And then we're set up for the next chapter, which is they're back from Moab with Ruth, the Moabite, right? Just to be clear, she is a Moabite, her daughter-in-law. And they arrived in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. As the time of the barley harvest was beginning. So pretty good stuff.
Yeah. You kind of wonder, seeing that so many people recognized her,
Yeah.
whoa, is this Naomi who's coming back now? Is like,
yeah,
it seems like Naomi was one of the only people to have left because, oh man, that family is so bad. But it seems like it wasn't really as bad as they made it out to be.
Yeah.
But it also seems like Naomi's kind of like, hey, I'm not the Naomi that left. You know, I'm Mara now. You know, I'm more of the grieving old woman type. I don't want to be associated with maybe the success or the level of, or maybe even just the lady that left. Like, I'm different now. I'm here because I'm bitter and I'm sad, and just kind of let me live in that space. Don't refer to me by my old name.
Yeah.
Which is Naomi. Like, you know, call me Mara because I am bitter and sad, you know, and talking in this affliction that she feels.
Right. And I wonder how much of that was like a type of deflection. You know how sometimes, you know, you get back to something or you go back home after you've been away, you know, and everyone's like, oh, look at, the pastor's back. Whoa. And then you're like, yo, guys, I lost my job, you know. And, oh, bro, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how much of that was obviously her explaining why she's back, right? But saying, hey,
I don't know. It's like, hey, you know, I used to be pleasant to be around. Now I'm bitter, so leave me the heck alone. And I guess it for me, like what I compare it to, is, yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna say it.
No, say it, man. You gotta say it now.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Everybody's waiting, bro.
Everybody is waiting.
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Yeah, but no, I think that speaks to even Ruth even more. The fact that she maybe had been like everything about her was bitter, right? And so it's like the fact that you even want to stay with a bitter person like that, which I think as the story goes on, she is kind of like, you know, but really does speak to Ruth as well. That she's like, even though the situation sucks and the person I'm with doesn't even want to kind of even live to an extent, right? I mean, it's kind of like what else is to live for? She's like, I'm gonna stick with her because this is my duty, this is my responsibility, and I choose to do this.
Yeah, and it's not like Ruth deciding to come change the attitude of Naomi, like in any way. She's still very much like, Naomi left and had, you know, no daughter-in-laws, but Mara's here and she's grieving, and I've got my daughter-in-law here with me, Ruth, who insisted on coming, you know, and wants to be here. You know, like it almost still feels that way, you know.
Like, hey, let's go. This is exciting. We're gonna do something new. She gets home. This sucks, guys. They're like, whoa, okay.
And they're excited, right?
Yeah, they're excited, like,
she's like,
is that Naomi?
It seems like they're excited. Because I mean, you could also look at the New Testament, and whenever they would say, "Oh, you know, is this Jesus? Is this the guy who, you know, came from Nazareth?" You know, and so in a way, it could be excitement, but it could also be like, "Oh, is this Naomi, that girl who left?"
Excitement could be two different ways. Like, excitement to be able to roast or to talk about at
the whole town definitely was stirred up in
buzzing. Yeah,
it's very interesting, right? And this is maybe going to the whole premise of the book, right? Is that it is the town of Bethlehem, right? And and Ruth becomes, as we'll see later, and we don't want to give the end of the story, but she becomes a great grandmother. I'm not sure how back, but of King David, right? Of literally in and so it's crazy that this.
You're talking about Ruth.
Ruth, yeah, not Naomi, yeah. Okay. But I guess Naomi in a sense because
no,
they're not blood. Right?
Boaz, you're right. Okay, yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Marriage.
Yeah. So not Naomi, but yeah. So it's interesting, right, that it is out of this little town of Bethlehem, that Jesus is born as well, you know, and so out of a crazy situation like this, good can come.
And it seems like it stayed small for forever. Like it's one of those towns that never grow, like Berrien Springs, right? That just like stays small eternally. But
it's true because, like you were saying, right, the fact that they were talking about Jesus of Nazareth and Bethlehem, like, you know, is this Jesus from Nazareth? I mean, is this carpenter? Like, you know, it's kind of the same dialogue where it's a small town. Yeah. What good can come from that? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Knows everything, you know, and for, you know, and the whole thing with Mary and Joseph, right? If it was still town, everyone knew about.
Yeah. I kind of approach life a little bit like Naomi in a way, because I remember when I was sent to to Michigan to do the MDiv. Man, my mission when I got there was like, yo, I just need this piece of paper and bounce. Like that's it. And I said to myself, I don't need any new friends. Like I don't need new friends. Like I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here to get that, paper that says I can do what I've been called to do, and that's it. I'm done. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of like Naomi's approach when she gets back home. She's like, yeah, I don't need to make new friends. It's like, oh, is this Naomi? No, I'm not Naomi. Like, no, like you don't know me. No one here knows me. I don't want to know anybody. Leave me alone. But definitely God had different plans. I met you guys there, obviously. But that's my initial response. I think whenever we get to, or not whenever I get to a new place, as far as like profession is concerned, not as far as like, obviously I'm here at church and I want to make friends with everybody. But when it comes to like, oh, you going to a seminar where there's a bunch of pastors, like my way of thinking is like Naomi is like, I come across as a bitter dude that doesn't want to get to know anyone, because at the same time it's like I would be exposing myself like Naomi's exposing herself to say, all right, if I let people in, if I trust people again, if I invest in people again and they fall out or they die or something like that happens, she's exposing herself to further heartbreak. And so in a way she's like, yeah, I don't want to form any attachments. And I don't want to form any attachments to, Berrien Springs, Michigan, but
but yet here you are.
Things happen.
That's good. Yeah, I think
that's a good point, man.
The approach that you have. And she's like, I'm just here for one purpose, to survive, and I'm not trying to really live life like just a place to die, pretty much.
I'm here till the clock runs out, basically.
Right. Yeah, in many ways, you can't blame her for it.
You can kind of blame Brian for Andrews, but you can't blame him.
You definitely can. Yeah.
Well, that's a good story. I'm excited to see what goes on from here. I mean, we're introduced to, a crazy story that I think a lot of people can relate to. I think about my own mom, when I think about Naomi, and kind of dealing with loss too. And thankfully, I think she's handling better than Naomi did, and hopefully, we're kind of being like Ruth to her, of just, we'll be there for you, Mom. But yeah, a lot of people going through that grief as well, and really feeling like, hey, I wish you could change my name tomorrow, because it feels like everything that happens to me, and it's bad. And kind of going off of the vein of Psalms that we've been going through in David and what he's feeling. So very good. Excited to keep going. All right, going to our round, our lightning round. We have 3 questions, Stephen, and we're just going to go around and answer them. These are either having to do with sports, culture, or what is it, sports, culture, or things that are going on in the world. So first question, though. Who is a powerful woman in your life, or who was a powerful woman in your life? Anybody?
I'm just gonna say my wife, because if not, then I will I will experience that power when I get home. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, it takes a lot of resilience. As I think basically like our generation, when it comes to millennials, like always trying to find like purpose in life, and everything we do has to have like this kind of purpose and meaning. And not everything in life provides that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so being able to be resilient and going after what it is where you find purpose, where you find meaning, is something powerful, and it takes a lot of strength. And so, I think my wife is a very strong woman.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same for me in terms of my life. Definitely my wife.
Great.
I'm just thinking of like the big 3 women in my life.
That's what happens when you don't talk about your wife.
That's what happens when men think. We freeze. We're like, I don't know.
Go ahead. No,
back.
Yeah. Oh. Let me look at that. All right. Well, I'll go while we wait for Steven to get. Oh.
Am I back in? Is it me?
Yeah. I don't know. You're good now.
Everybody went black. All right. Here we go. All right. Yeah. So yeah. Am I good? All right.
Yeah, you're good. So you just said 3 women.
3, yeah. So I just mentioned my wife, obviously, like, kind of similar to Brian, just the resilience that, she carries with her, through the different things that have come throughout her life, whether you want to go up, growing up, and even to now. It just always is inspiring. It always is pushes me to be better, and how she carries and how she brings that level of resilience and dedication, and just a fighter, man. In terms of how she approaches life, and it's added so much to my own life. Where I think a lot of times I'm like, I'll just ride the wave, but kind of instead, like, just go into it, and I think there's a level of going into the storm together. My mom, in terms of, I wouldn't always describe my mom as a powerful woman, but I think we associate powerful, with like fierceness or whatever, I think for her it's just sort of constancy. And I talk to my mom, and I know it's always consistent, right? In terms of how her countenance, right? The way that she approaches a situation is very much the same. Like, I can always kind of know how my mom's going to respond, or like, I know, like, I can come to her and we can have a conversation about this, right? She might talk to me for an hour. I might not be fully wanting to listen to it, but I know that is who she is. And it comes from a place of care and love, So, I'm appreciative of that, on my end. And I think there's power in that ability to still be constant, sort of have this calming effect. And I think that's something that's been imparted on me. I think a lot of times I can just kind of be mellow, but I think that's something that comes from my mom, kind of that consistency to know, like, hey, this is my duty. This is what I got to do. I'm going to continue doing that. And then my sister, she's a lot younger than me, but a lot of times I feel like she is my older sister. Sometimes she's like the voice of reason. Sometimes, at least for me, at times growing up. I'm just, I'm excited for, her potential, right? I think there's so much potential within my sister and the ability to unlock that. And I'm just excited for her. So those are the three big women in my life. Right now, and obviously shout out to my mother-in-law too, who is a powerful woman in her own right, man. Her stories are dope too, but a lot.
I love it. I would say I guess we got to go with wives, but no, I'm kidding. I would
start there, and then
obviously my wife, very dedicated and just gives 100% to everything she does, and hustles hard to do and to love others and treat others well. And at the same time, also my mom, just, as I was saying, going through all this, just seeing the vulnerability of that, the first couple of weeks since when my dad passed, of just how, seeing a side of her that you really never want to see your mom like that, and seeing how broken, and to be able to, kind of provide, as we were broken too, but love and care and support in the times that they did to us as we were kids. It's a really crazy thing at how, the roles are reversed, and maybe kind of like what Ruth and Naomi are going through. But to see how she's kind of, pulled through, and she's moving forward, not moving on, but moving forward in the midst of that. And I can't imagine putting myself in that situation. And I've only been married, it'll be 4 years this year. So, so love you, Mom. All the women in our lives, we're very grateful for you guys. You guys have really definitely shaped who we are today and continue to shape us. So thank you. Very good. All right, 2 more questions. This is the second question. So was it Tuesday, Barcelona completed the comeback versus Sevilla in Copa del Rey. What's next? Are they winning Copa del Rey? And what's happening with Champions? Are we going to be able to come back from Champions after losing 4-1 in the first leg? Steven, I'll start with you, bro.
Say no, man. I feel like we have this conversation all the time, and we just
Brian's like
I mean it would be nice, but honestly, like, I feel like it's a no, guy. I hate to be that guy, but I don't know, man. Something, I feel like something's missing on the squad, in my opinion. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just chemistry, or I don't know. Maybe he's just getting old too, man. Maybe Messi's just getting a little old, bro.
He's Superman.
He needs to get on that the Tom Brady method.
Oh, the Tom Brady, LeBron. Brian, what about
LeBron.
you? The Copa del Rey and the Champions League?
No, I think they can definitely win Copa del Rey. That's for sure. I believe they can win. What kind of made a turnaround for me was the league game against Sevilla at Sevilla, when they won 2-0. And I said, oh, they won okay. So that kind of changed my perspective on things, because I thought we were out of Copa del Rey too.
Yeah.
When they won 2-0 Sevilla, I thought, all right, we can do this. And they won 3-0 at Barca, and they changed the tie around, which is great. Now they're on to the final.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the Champions League,
Not
I would have straight up given a no answer. Hell no, there's no way we're gonna make it to the next stage. But seeing the last two games against a strong opponent like Sevilla, I want to say that there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's not likely to happen, but as a fan, I can say like, yeah, we can do it. We can do it even with this crappy team that we have right now. I think that it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of concentration on the pitch because they have really, really, really good players, very fast. So our defense is extremely slow, and I think that's going to be the hardest part. I think, but we would have to score 4 goals, and I don't see that
exactly
happening.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's the first time since the last time we played PSG that we are going in as the underdogs. Because usually we go in with the lead after winning in our home, and we got thrashed in Barca, so we're gonna go to Paris. So I think that might benefit them in some way because the pressure isn't on them as much as it has been before, because they're always thinking like, we always allow the teams to come back. So that might be in their favor. Or they're also, like you're saying, they're going off of 2 impressive wins, and so it's gonna be hard to score 4 goals. I don't know who would score it. It'd be nice if Messi scored a hat trick.
It still may not be enough.
That still might not be enough. He might have to score 4. But if we can go off of this where Messi didn't have to score and they still won, and Messi was more creating and people can put the ball in, who knows? They could score 4 goals. But
I'm okay with us talking about it. I hate when commentators start to get in on it. Last time it was like, oh, Messi's going to show us a hell of a show. And then we lost like 8-2 against Bayern. And I was like, nah, bro. Like, don't.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal for y'all.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, that changed my view on Barcelona. Like I do prefer PSG, but I mean when y'all lost 8-2, man,
it was
you just
unbelievable.
Like that's bad anywhere.
Like, honestly, like if Barcelona doesn't make it through, I want PSG to win the Champions League simply because I'm a fan of their coach. Pochettino is just man, he has a big heart and smarts and brain for the game. He knows what he's doing. So for Pochettino, for other players in there that I consider to be really good, I hope that they do win the Champions League if they knock out Barcelona. If not, then
we'll see.
You guys shouldn't win for the next century, man. Like,
I mean, they've never really been good. I mean, the fact that you even talk about PSG, I feel like
they've had a bunch of all-star teams, man, and it's just not happening.
Just never they just
I don't know.
Last question. I don't know if you're watching WandaVision, Steven. You've been watching?
Not, man.
Oh man. All right. Well,
where is it on? Where can I watch it?
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Just borrow Seba's subscription.
I think I have Disney Plus, so I have to watch it.
Borrow the one that we borrow if you want.
Disney Plus, ESPN, and some other thing all together.
Oh, you got them all?
No, I just have Disney Plus.
I think it comes with a bundle, no?
Oh yeah, we were talking about that the other day.
Something else.
If it does, then I have not been using it to its full capacities.
Yeah, ESPN Plus, bro.
Check your subscription, bro.
I'm about to do that right now. All right, Ryan, what do you think is gonna happen?
Dude, honestly, I don't know anything. So I think that the ending prediction is just gonna be like, I have no idea. Wanda's definitely more powerful than this other person.
Yeah. Without giving.
And the other person already said that she was like crazy powerful, like she shouldn't have all this power.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Wanda has it within herself to do whatever the heck she wants, even if there's a spell over her by this person. I'm just trying not to give anything away to Steven. Anyway, so yeah, I think Wanda's gonna come out of this a winner, hopefully. And they're gonna be good friends. At least according to the comics, their relationship isn't too bad, right?
Right.
So hopefully we see a little bit of of that relationship fostering now.
Yeah. From the comics, from what I've seen, it seems like the second person becomes a mentor of types to Wanda.
Right.
And
That's
interested
right.
to see if at the end they team up to beat the bad guy outside, if you know what I'm talking
about. Yes and no. I don't really know who the overall bad guy is.
Yeah. We don't.
But I hope that agent dude, like something happens to him, you know.
That's the guy that I think is maybe the bad guy at the end, but we'll see.
Oh, he thinks he's like masking himself in a.
No, I just think he's a humanly bad. Like he does just not non-powerful.
Oh, he's just a bad guy, but that's just a dude.
Yeah, just a dude. I don't know.
See, they give white men too much power in these comics, man. It's like you're just a white guy. Like, how could you do all this?
How are you?
You're not even a superhero. Like,
yeah, what powers?
That is the superpower, bro.
That's society in a way, right? You know.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're a white guy. That's a superpower.
Next time on Scholar Slip Ups.
That was a Scholar Slip Up
with Brian Sewell.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you guys for the great conversation. Looking forward to talking some more next week. Check us out as we go into Ruth chapter 2. For those that have journeyed with us, thank you. And we'll see y'all later. Peace.